Hello everyone and welcome to a special video. It's pre-season 2024-2025 and I have with me the champion from last season. So I'd like to welcome Paul Baker to the stage. Hi Paul, how are you doing?
I'm very well, Chris. Very well. How are you?
Very good, thank you. Yeah, it's been a while since we've done one of these, but looking forward to it, and no better guest than the current champion, the reigning champion. Two-time, I think it is now. You won it two times. So yeah, congratulations officially.
Thanks very much.
I did it at the end of the season, hopefully, but if I didn't forget. But it's yeah, no, absolutely. What an amazing feat. And so yeah, congratulations. And tonight's video is, and hopefully podcast, depending on how it goes, is just we're gonna ask you some questions as we traditionally do. And then if we've got time, we might even look at our setups for the season ahead. So let's get straight into it, Bakes, if you don't mind. And first question up, what did you spend your winnings on? I guess
so it's a good question. It's quite a disappointing answer. I haven't really spent it on anything yet. I did break my watch a few weeks ago, so I think I'll be probably spending it on a replacement one of those, but nothing especially exciting, I'm afraid to report.
It's good. I hope it filled the coffers. You know, times are hard right now. So.
Living crisis, Chris. It all helps.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. So let's look back at last season, and I've got a question from Steve Cronin, who comments first of all that it was a strong end to your season, which obviously it was, to catch a few people. How template were you, and what were your gambles going into the sort of that final run?
Well, the first thing is, and it's good to hear that question, because obviously Steve wasn't watching my slow and steady progress up the league for many more weeks than just the last few weeks. So I'd been sort of creeping up for quite a while. My philosophy on the game is absolutely template. Always get as close to the template as I possibly can. I think a lot of
people, right at the end.
At the end, yeah, as template as possible. Absolutely as template as possible. I think, and he asked about gambles. I don't take gambles. It's just not the way I play. I think probably the biggest difference, it's not a differential, but the biggest difference is that I had Guardiola. That's the thing that made the big difference with most.
Yeah, that was definitely the haves and have-nots.
And certainly,
And did you have Mateta as well?
Sorry?
Did you have Mateta as well?
No, never had Mateta.
Oh, okay. I thought you might have had him, and that he had a very strong finish as well. But
yeah, I was on the same chip strategy that most people were on. I know you did a different chip strategy, but that meant that I'd never had the opportunity of getting Mateta in. No. Just honestly, just pick. Just try to be as template as possible. Don't take risks. Don't take gambles.
So no gambles. No gambles is the answer, basically.
Throw it away.
Okay, that's good. All right, well, let's go to another question then that's maybe links on from this. And how much do you go on feelings or instinct versus how much on the numbers and data? That's from Mark Tarbox, by the way.
Yeah, that's a really good question. It's kind of a bit of both, which is a really sitting on the fence type of answer. I mean, I don't really spend a lot of time looking at the data and looking at the numbers. Honestly, I haven't got time. But then again, I read lots of articles by people who do, or listen to, and we'll come on to this probably in a bit, listen to podcasts by people who do. So I kind of get the data and the numbers via, editorialized versions from content creators. And I tend to listen to those content creators who are into the numbers and therefore, backdoor way into to get all that. In terms of the sort of feelings and instincts, I would sort of put that back to this idea of my sort of philosophy of trying to get as close to the template as possible. So if the numbers don't suggest a player, but my kind of view in terms of template and overall strategy indicates that might be a good player to go for, then I might go against the numbers for that reason. But I won't go for just like a shoot from the hip kind of, I just fancy this player this week or something like that. It'll always be a logical, rational decision.
If you had to weight it to one way or the other between instinct and say data,
It's probably more data. I mean, I've got a structure for the team. I'll always want to play 3-4-3. I mean, I'll always structure a team that way, and so there are some boundaries, but within the boundaries, it's probably weighted more towards the data and numbers.
Okay, I mean that's an interesting response.
I work in analytics.
Well, there you go. Maybe there's another clue as well. Okay, let's talk about maybe the emotional side rather than the numbers side. And Tina Whitehouse, she asks, do you ever let the emotions associated with the club you support get in the way of a rational FPL decision? This is a great question because obviously a lot of people who are in our league support a team within that league. And okay, so give us your view on it.
I think it's impossible not to at the end of the day, because I think we're all so invested in, we play fantasy football because we enjoy watching football, and we all, enjoying watching football comes with having a football team. And there's a lot of people in FF UK don't support Premier League team. Most of us, I guess, do. I just think it's impossible to entirely separate the two things out. As I was thinking about this question, I was thinking about, I have an advantage because I'm a West Ham fan, right? So we make fewer decisions about West Ham players than we do about, maybe Chelsea players in your particular case, or Liverpool players, or Man United players, or Man City players. So I think that gives me a small advantage. But I was thinking about a situation at the beginning of last season where, I mean, obviously it didn't cost me in the end, but I made an emotional decision about a West Ham player, and I was just so negative about the West Ham defence. My view was West Ham defence is awful. There's no way I'm picking a West Ham defender. So I didn't sign Areola when loads of people were jumping on that. And it was a really good signing at the time, and missed out on a load of points by making that decision. So that was definitely connected to an emotional decision regarding the club that I support. But as compared to people who support Liverpool and Manchester United, it's going to be much harder to separate out those decisions, and many more decisions to take.
So almost the better the team, the harder it is.
I think so. Yeah, I think you do have you are at a disadvantage. Because particularly Liverpool fans who really have a tendency to overrate their players more so than any other fans.
Yeah. Well, that's maybe a chat for another day with some other people. But I think that's really interesting, and I think it is a sort of an unquantifiable element of fantasy. And I think that people who I do think people who don't support a team in the league definitely have to have an advantage, because they have to look at it more rationally than we do. But you're right that there are teams that maybe there's one or two players where, and maybe that's not quite as hard a decision to make, whereas some teams have 5, 6, 7 options, and that is a bit bigger decision. I think it's a fascinating element, as I say, of fantasy football that is totally unquantifiable, as I say. But
there was an example of a guy who won FPL, and I can't remember which way around it was. I think he was a Man United fan who refused to pick a Liverpool player.
I think he was an Everton fan, and he was an Everton fan.
It was something like that. Absolutely.
It was pre-Salah.
Liverpool assets being fantastic assets this season, he still managed to win FPL. So
yeah.
Even though a decision that should have cost him absolutely didn't. So.
Yeah, no, that's an amazing story, and I think that maybe is the one exception to the rule, because surely that's a freak occurrence. Okay, let's have a look at another question we've got from Pete Cronin about sources of information. So, what are the main sources of information you do follow, and any sources or influences you try and avoid in pre-season and throughout the season?
Yeah, my main source is Fantasy Football Scout. So I've got a pay for membership of that to get all the members' articles and things like that. I find it super useful, particularly as I don't have the time to wade through all the numbers myself. That some of the articles there are brilliant. They get loads of great content creators to write articles. So I find that super useful. The access to the premium version of the season ticker is really good. The Rate My Team tool is really good. So I use loads of the Fantasy Football Scout. So that's more than anything else is that. If I'm going to listen to anything, I listen to Black Box, which again gives me the access to the numbers and the data as you wade through all the Brighton and Notts Forest chat from Az and Mark. Really, that's probably it. I don't actively avoid anything, but I'm not on Twitter really or actively, and maybe that helps. I don't know. I think that might.
Maybe it does. Well, it certainly did last season, didn't it?
Certainly, in terms of the fake news in the run up to deadlines. I don't get sidelined by any of that kind of stuff.
Okay.
If I'm going to recommend anything to anybody, Fantasy Football Scout, I think it's brilliant.
And I think they've got an app. They've got an app this season, haven't they?
Yeah, so I've been looking at that. Yeah, I should say as well, FPL statistics for price rises. I've always used them. I know you can get price rises now from loads of different places, but
you can. That's the classic. That's the OG, isn't it? OG site for that. Yeah. So we use that one, and obviously live FPL.
Live FPL for live rank. Yeah. That's good. It doesn't give me any more information other than live
it's
rank.
Fast. It's just fast. And it's live, which is kind of what we want. And the bloody website sometimes takes 12 hours, 24 hours to update. So very frustrating. Okay, we've got I think one more question about kind of more general question, and then we're going to move on to talking about next season in particular.
Sure.
So it's from John Parkinson, and he asks, how far ahead do you generally plan throughout the season? And I guess you could break this up, maybe if you plan differently, how far ahead at the beginning of the season to later on in the season, if you want to go into that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Right now, no more than 5 or 6 weeks, and even that feels too far. I always wild card around game week 3 or game week 4 because I've always got it so badly wrong with my first team, and I can't. I don't feel like I can wait. So I tend to wild card super early. But I'm going to give it another go this year and see if I can hold off for a bit longer. So, but I'm nothing beyond 6 weeks.
And that's throughout the season as well. You'd say the same
throughout the season. That tends to be my typical window. So, I mean, looking at the fixture ticker, for example, on Fantasy Football Scout, which defaults to 10 weeks, I'll always take that straight down to 6 weeks because outside of, if you're starting to plan beyond that, and I'll come on to one exception in a minute, but beyond 6 weeks, I mean, there's so much. In 6 weeks, you've got 6 transfers. And you can change half your team for a start. So that's already a big window from that perspective. But, you get injuries and suspensions and, in transfer windows, you've got transfers coming in and out. So, I mean, I don't know what you'd get out of planning things any further ahead than that. Would just be, from my perspective, just be a complete waste of time. The only exception is chip strategy, which is much less important now than it has been in the past. Then you're wanting to plan that out probably more than 6 weeks, or at least in terms of having an idea of when you're going to play your chips. It's probably more of a 10 to 12 week out to 37, which is usually when you play your last one. But I don't think that's going to be I don't think we've got a question necessarily on chips this year, but I don't think that's going to be anywhere near as big a factor this year. So
no, I guess the sort of add-on question to it is about not the chips this season, but the rule change in that you can carry more transfers. Is that going to mean that we look slightly longer? I agree with you totally. At the beginning of the season, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever you want to talk about. But I wonder if later on, and you talked about it really with chip strategy, and I think it's going to combine with that, because we're going to look at doing maybe trying to save a couple of transfers, then wildcarding, and coming out of that wildcard with 2 free transfers or 3 free transfers we can save again. And then you can really kind of make you can almost go really short term with your wildcard, because you've got 3 transfers in the bank to kind of change big things around and stuff. You could do real power plays maybe. I
can see. I guess you can kind of create scenarios whereby that might be useful. Probably counter that in a couple of ways by saying, if you've made a wild card, why do you suddenly want 3 transfers out the other side of it? Surely that's what the purpose of your wild card was. Also, how many weeks are there realistically in the season where we don't want to make a transfer, when we're happy to roll? I mean, it's and then roll 2 weeks in a row.
3, 4, 5. Yeah, it seems excessive, doesn't it? And I think
nobody playing the game is ever going to do that. That's just going to suit the people who kind of are kind of in and out of the game, casual players. who kind of forgotten to look at their team, or been a bit busy, haven't looked at their team, and pick up their team and go, oh yeah, this fantasy football thing. Oh look, I've got 5 transfers. Oh.
Yeah,
and then it brings them back in the game because they can make the changes to play a bit of catch up. So I can see how it helps casual players and bring them back in. But
yeah, maybe when people miss the deadline in the WhatsApp group, that's going to be well, the bonus is you can carry a transfer. But...
I mean, I think it has been annoying in the past when you've done a free hit or you've done a wild card and you've got a transfer in the back. You've got a free transfer in the back and then you lose it. And that always felt annoying. I can't imagine us carrying more than 1, maybe 2 through that process. Just don't see a scenario where that would work out. But who knows, right? And who knows what this mystery chip is in the second half of the season.
Exciting. Yeah. So and you're right, every season's different. So I think that's key. So let's talk about this season. That's probably what people want to listen to when they're hearing this video or listening to it or whatever the words are. I've got, I think, 4 or 5 fairly kind of quick questions. Let's go through them and see what you think. So when the game opened, first price you looked for?
Haaland. I mean, it was announced before the
game. But that was the price you wanted to know.
Most ones were, to be honest, but that was always the one. And when that came out as 15 million, that was like, okay, this is
explosive.
This is going to change everything. And now I look at my team, it's just changed nothing for me and my team. But it had to be Haaland.
Are we happy with the price?
With 50 million, yeah, I think it's great. It had to be done. I mean, anything less than that, and everyone has to have him. Now there's a conversation: do you go to Haaland or do you not? And in the past, with the pricing, you could always get 2 premiums, Haaland and Salah. It was,
Yeah, they've made it harder.
That's a really, really big question. That's a really big topic for debate.
We'll get to that. Okay, next. Okay, I think that was an easy one. Okay, this was maybe a trickier question. Most overpriced player.
Overpriced player. You see, there's a
follow-up
question in terms of underpriced as well that I know is following this, and I think the answer to the two's connected. I think they've got the pricing really good this year. It was a bit. I think they underpriced a lot of players last season. I think this year they've done a really good job. I'm not I haven't really found a player that I felt like is really overpriced or really underpriced. I mean, you can argue 0.5s, I think, either way on some players, but overpriced. I'm not. Maybe. I mean, they've gone super big on Palmer, Foden, and Saka after last season. They've had really big price jumps. I'd expect at least one of those not to justify that kind of price.
Which one?
To deceive in the past. Foden.
Ooh.
But by the way, I always do the predictions at the start of the season, and my predictions are always terrible. So don't listen to them. I always look at it after a few months and go, what did I predict? Oh yeah, that was all completely way off. But I think, although I did predict one of a group of players would massively underachieve, and I put Rashford in that list. So.
Oh yeah, well he's had a price drop though, I think, hasn't
he? Yeah. So somebody who might be underpriced.
Yeah, let's talk about underpriced. Then. Most underpriced player.
So in terms of player, I wonder Trent, because he's had a big price drop from 8
1
to
million.
7.
Yeah.
So, and I've spoiler alert, I've got him in my squad at the moment. I really want him. I really want Trent. Because I think at 7, I think could be incredible value. The other way I think of thinking about it is more about teams rather than players. So like Arsenal players, super expensive. City players, super expensive. Liverpool players are pretty expensive. Then you look at Tottenham, United and Chelsea, and actually between them, other than Palmer, there's no players priced. Oh, Fernandes is at 8.5, and you got Nick Jackson at 7.5. Every other player in those teams is 7 or less. Oh, Son, because Tottenham's a bit higher, but so many bargains. If one of those teams starts firing, then there's going to be some real bargains. Now, which one? I don't know, because you could make a case for or against any of those teams, but I reckon one of them will hit the ground running and be right up there in the top 4. If I had to pick one, I'd pick Chelsea.
Are you picking? Sorry, are you picking most underpriced now, or what are you picking?
Yeah, underpriced. Okay. So if I'm looking for underpriced players, I'd probably look at Chelsea.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I know. Luckily, we've got City first up, so no one should even be looking at any of our players anyway.
Not week 1, but after week 1, you change that ticker to week 2 to
yeah. But we as we know,
right up at the
important. All important. You can't have 2 players in your team who could both blank. But
No.
But you might have one Chelsea player, but you probably want to bench him. That's probably the way it is. Okay. Here's the probably the $64,000 question, or however much our prize money is this season. Salah or Haaland or both?
I mean, it's perfectly possible that any of us could start the season in any one of those 3 scenarios. I currently have both, and I've been on both pretty much since the word go, and I don't intend to release either.
Okay.
My plan is both. I think you can get a really good team with both. I was listening to Black Box the other day, and they're saying it's impossible to have a properly balanced team with Salah and Haaland. It's utter nonsense. You can get a really good team with Salah and Haaland in it.
It's your priorities, isn't it? If you look at the team,
So Salah, Ipswich, first game week. Really? Are we really going without Salah at Ipswich in game week 1? Are we?
And then reverse
game week 2, Haaland, Southampton. I think Southampton, isn't it?
Game week 2, he's got Ipswich.
Oh, they got Ipswich, right?
Yeah. Ipswich have got a lovely opening for anyone considering Ipswich players.
Are we really going with a Man City playing Ipswich without Haaland? Really? How much hiding behind the sofa do people want to do? I mean, it just feels like that's the way the fixtures are. With Liverpool having that great run at the start of the season, I can't see a world where I can go without Salah. Even with the new manager and all that, I just can't see a world where I would go without him. And Haaland's Haaland. I mean,
well, I guess that's a good little sort of maybe view on what we might have coming up after this with our teams, because we'll quickly look at our teams next. But before we do that, just quickly, what's your predicted top 4? Because I guess this game is all about predictions at the end of the day, in one way or another. What's your predicted top 4 in the Premier League at the end of next season? So who's winning the league? Who's second, third, fourth?
City are going to win it again. Arsenal second, Liverpool third, and then it's all about who finishes. I know that's super boring. Chelsea fourth.
Oh, thank you very much. I'll take that right now. Let's not bother with this season. Let's just go straight to the medals. Okay, cool.
What about you, Chris? What would you go for?
I've got a feeling Arsenal win it this season. Well, I think they should win it this season in some ways, because I feel like they've probably strengthened and City have got weaker, and especially if they lose Alvarez, they're weaker.
Yeah.
So that would be my prediction for 1 and 2. Liverpool are a funny one. Like, you've had them third, and probably that is sort of sensible. But I just wonder with the slot thing if there's going to be some kind of weird drop off. If they're trying to change their style of play too much, it might take 6 months or 3 months or whatever. I don't know. So I would maybe have Liverpool in fourth, and then it's like, who's third? Like, as you said, it's the same discussion. I can't put Chelsea there because we are too much of a basket case at the moment.
Right.
And then I don't think it'd be Villa.
No.
I don't think it'd be Spurs. No. And then you're left with United, and it's like
you're left with United.
Yeah. So maybe I'll go Spurs, because maybe Ange Ball is the thing. I'll go Spurs third. Why not? For a laugh. I've had a couple of glasses of red wine. So.
The team I think will be. I mean, I don't know if they count as a surprise or not. I think Crystal Palace will have a really, really strong season,
even though they've lost Elise.
Yeah.
Okay.
I rate Glasner that highly. Just the job he came in, I just think was absolutely phenomenal. And if they spend that money in strength, and then
they might have some more money coming in for Gahey as well. So let's put your team up, Bakes. This is
Sure.
your current draft. Obviously the proviso is here. Drafts change. But you have got a Palace player in there. I can see straight away, which is Eze, which is a very popular one.
Yeah, I've got Anderson on the bench as well.
And you've got Anderson on the bench as well. So a bit of cover there. Yeah, okay, talk us through it. And for anyone listening on audio, you just go through the team, so everyone can hear it. Yeah.
I've got Flecken in goal. Don't want to spend more than 4.5 on a keeper. I don't think it's worth it. And we didn't talk about like the BPS changes and things like that, but with BPS changes, I'm not going to invest much in defence. 4.5 keeper, I think he's the best of them. And I've got his backup currently as the 4.0. It'll be a 4.0 keeper that fills the other spot. In defence, I've got Alexander-Arnold. Beyond that, I think when you look at the options you've got at 4.5 defenders, honestly, I think you could probably pick 5 4.5 defenders and be perfectly happy with your defence. So I've then gone for 3 4.5s in currently Robinson, who I really like at Fulham, Mikalenko, Everton got good fixtures, and Anderson. And then I've got I always have a 4.0 defender. So I've got Barco at the moment, which as from Black Box has sort of persuaded me to take on, but it might be hard with Bellis. Midfield, I've got Salah, which doesn't leave me a lot of money to spend on the rest of the midfield, but I've got Eze, I've got Gordon, which I think gives me some pretty good extra firepower in midfield. Hudson-Odoi and Rodgers, whether I keep them or not, they might be in and out depending on how I feel towards the end, towards deadline day. And then front three, I'm pretty fixed on. I can't see myself changing these. Isak, Haaland, Muniz. It just feels like they're the right picks for the forward line. So that's who I've gone with.
Yeah, I mean that forward line I've seen is popular amongst the kind of the hardcore. I guess it's a template front three. I've seen Watkins in some as well, and there are other players that flit in and out. But yeah, that probably is the template front three. But you've already kind of mentioned that you're a bit of a template player, and there's nothing wrong with that because that's kind of probably is the best. There's very few renegade managers who have really good histories winning stuff. They might have one good season, and I think that maybe the person who wins FPL has to be a bit of a renegade. But
I think you have to be. Yeah, you couldn't win FPL by being template. You'd have to be a bit.
No, because the thing is that now with all the content creators as well, there's so many people doing very similar things that it's minimal gains. And so in terms of this team, are you kind of which players are you kind of looking at maybe moving out? Which ones are you more keen to? Who's the dead certs here, and who are the decisions still?
I think the front three are dead certs. I'd be Robinson. I really like Robinson. I really want him in my team, so I think he'll definitely be in. I really want Eze as well. I think he'll be in. I think the rest of them are up for grabs. Alexander-Arnold is, in terms of defense, it's a big. It's even though it dropped by $1 million, it's still a big spend, and you can save $1 million by going to Guardiola. So that's still an option. I haven't got Konsa actually. I keep thinking I need to get Konsa in, so I might bring Konsa in as one of the 4.5s. But I think I'm pretty close now to my final team. Don't think it'll change.
Good feeling when you get close, because I think there's always going to be one or two players that you're going to and ah about, but to have that kind of shell is a good feeling as we get closer. Okay, well we'll move on and we'll look at my team as well.
Absolutely.
Obviously, the team you really want to know about you've already seen, but if you want to finish kind of that 20th, which is where I keep finishing, then this is the team. So let me just bring up mine. Here we go. So similarities are I've got Salah, I've got Haaland, so I've got a confidence saying.
Oh, you've gone Salah and Haaland as well, have you?
Yeah, I think, and I haven't really changed on that. And like you, I set my first team up with both, and I feel like there's enough money to do it, but I don't have Trent, so I've beefed up maybe a little bit elsewhere. Yeah. The other thing that I've done differently to you is I've gone 3-5-2 rather than 3-4-3. And you said to me you always go 3-4-3. Is that okay? Interesting, because I traditionally have. Last season I went to 3-5-2 because, and my only reasoning for it is midfielders score better than forwards. So why would I not want more midfielders than forwards? That was it was like, it's that basic. But I have no sort of scientific proof that it works. But this season, I'm like, no, I'm going to go with it again because I believe in the kind of the logic, if nothing else. I do wonder if shots on target means that more forwards get bonus this season, and therefore that I might be, already setting myself up for a fall in that respect. But yeah, so I've gone Raya in goal. I should, because for anyone listening,
get into the Arsenal defence. Yeah, I was on Raya until quite recently.
I've gone Raya in goal, but I'm like you. I'm always a 4.5 and a 4.0. And last season and the season before, I think I was 4.0 and 4.0. And like, I don't care about keepers, just whatever's cheap, and I'll pick up the odd points where I get them. But I've gone Raya this season just because of what you said, and it's just that just getting on that Arsenal defence, and it's the cheapest way. So I've gone with him. And then in my back line at the moment is Martinez, Burn, Gvardiol. And that will change for sure, because if we see Guéhi go to Newcastle and it looks like he's going to start the first week, that will obviously Burn will flip to him. And Martinez, I'm not convinced about at all. I just think he's a really good price for Man United. But I'm not even sure, he might, no, I think, I don't know if he was before he joined United, but he has been at United, and but they don't, I think he's going to start the season, I assume, if he's fit. So, but I don't necessarily like their fixtures really, and I just don't trust Man United for obvious reasons. And then my other two defenders are cheapies. I've got Wout Faes, who is the inspiration for my team name, Face Off. Classic John Woo, Nicolas Cage. And I've got two Brighton lads on the bench in Barco, who's popular, who you've got, who if he's going to play, he's going to be popular. And I've got O'Mahony from Police Squad. Just because none of the 4.5 forwards I don't think are going to play. But I'm happy to sort of take that as my third bench player if I'm going to go with the 3-5-2 option. So where did I even talk about? So midfield obviously is where it's at for me, and I've got Salah, as mentioned, Gordon, who you've got, and then I've got 3 6.5s, and these have been swapping for me. I've had Nkunku, I've had various 6.5s in there. I had Doku at one point, just thinking maybe I want extra City against Chelsea, but I'm landed on at the moment Brennan Johnson, Kudu, who I really like his price, and Szoboszlai, who is rumoured to be playing number 10 for Liverpool at the beginning of the season.
Szoboszlai's a good pick, really.
Yeah, I just also kind of think, well, you talked about, it's Ipswich, Salah. I'm thinking, well, if it's going to be that good, I quite like a second piece of the pie, really. So Kudu feels to me probably 0.5 underpriced, I would say. Maybe, do you think?
Maybe. I mean, and this is me with my emotional reaction to West Ham. I just don't trust us with a new manager. The signing's been great, but
I don't really like your fixtures.
I just don't trust West Ham. I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah, I don't like your opening fixtures particularly, and that could easily see him chopped out. You've got Villa up first, and then I think third game you've got a tricky tie. I can't remember now, but so that's me, and that's
Looks
you.
Good. Good.
It's okay.
Brennan Johnson's an interesting pick, actually.
Yeah, I'm not convinced. I like Spurs fixtures, and I love Son. I think that's what it is, and I can't get to Son, and he's the only. No, not really. And I mean, you squeeze Trent in. I think squeezing Son is even harder.
Does Johnson play?
I think
Does Son play on the left and Richarlison?
I think he starts the season, but I mean, it's just as I say, there's loads of good 6.5s. I really like Bailey, so I can see those changing. I feel like for me, one of my defenders and my 6.5s is where I'm changing. I think I'm going to start 3-5-2, as I say. So that was it. Then that was under 35 minutes, Bakes. That's pretty much a record for us.
I think so.
But thank you very much for joining us. It's been a real pleasure to chat to you and get you some of your views.
Yeah, not at all. Not at all. Always a pleasure. Hoped we can do another one of these fairly soon.
Definitely, yeah. So I'm going to try and do some more during the season, I think. Just depends kind of obviously how life gets in the way. But if you're watching this or listening to this and you fancy coming on and enjoying a quick chat and maybe showing your team on screen, That's basically the only requirements. Anyone can do it, pretty much, I would say. So yeah, if you fancy that, come and give us a shout, and it'd be great to have you on. But otherwise, good luck for the season. Good luck, Bakes, for the season ahead. And good luck to everyone in the FF UK League. And we'll see you again soon. Goodbye.
All right. See you all soon.